Hey, how's everyone doing? Miss Foley, you were out last night.
I
You
was.
really missed a good opportunity to
missed-
learn about testing. Are you
I,
feeling better?
I'm feeling better. I missed a good time.
You
So.
did. Yeah, and because you and I planned, we worked really hard on this. Well, you
Yes.
worked really hard on it,
Well,
getting the PowerPoint ready, right?
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But I heard you knocked it out of the park. So
yeah, well,
I'm just here now for fun.
yeah, we're
for kicks and giggles, really.
we're a good team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we wanted to go over what we had last night on test prep, and the reason why I'm going to do it because it's extremely important for everybody to understand what it means this next coming month when it comes to testing. So.
Correct. It's really important. We want everybody to understand the importance. And things have changed a little bit in the past year or two with testing.
Mm-hmm.
So we just want to make sure that everybody knows. And for those of you that didn't get to come last night, this is kind of a Cliff Note version of what you missed last night. So we're going to post the PowerPoint online. So you can see that because there's a little video embedded, but we'll post that online. But this also will give you basically the same information that you received last night.
So we're not going to play the video for them today that we played last night.
Correct.
But they'll be able to see it on the PowerPoint.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
All right. So let's get started.
Right. Fast assessments. I mean, they've always been around. Standardized testing has been around for a long time, but it's really changed over the years. Way back when it was FCAT, and then it was FSA. Now it's BEST or FAST, just depending on what grade level and what test they're actually taking.
Correct.
So, but the biggest thing about the test is, which is going to be the next slide, but we have to cover is that the FAST test is offered 3 times a year.
Yes.
September, August, September, January, and then May.
Correct.
Right. And the one in May is the one that's the longest. The one in May is what we call the summative one, which is a combination of all the year's learning. So
yes. At PM, we call them PM, progress monitoring. PM1 that's done in the fall and PM2 that's done in the winter are really used for data gathering purposes. Right. In the fall, we want to see, what they're bringing in from the previous year. The winter kind of gives us the growth from the beginning, and then, where we need to fill in those gaps before the PM3.
Right.
So the PM3, like Mr. Ross says, is that summative at the end of the year, that captures what they've learned this year.
So that's the FAST, generally speaking.
Yes.
So, but the biggest change, which is the next slide, it is now what we call a CAT. Oh, well, this is the blueprint. So we'll pause on that.
Okay.
But the blueprint is basically it's the curriculum that we teach.
Right.
As teachers. And this is what's guiding our instruction. As you can see on here, the one that's on there the most is the bottom one. If you look at it, that's reading across genres, which is more based on students thinking while they're reading. Because do you remember the days when we would take the tests, and I used this example last night, like, hey, how much did the fish weigh? Well, the fish weighed 14 pounds. We no longer have those type of questions.
Right.
Those are not existed. They don't exist anymore.
Right. Yeah. And we put this slide on here just so you can kind of see the percentages of what is actually assessed. And the example I put on here is a 4th grade blueprint and a 6th grade blueprint. And I did that because 3rd, 4th, and 5th are all of the same. They have the same types of benchmarks. And then 6th, 7th, and 8th are all the same. And there's really only one difference between the 2 of them, and that falls in that reading across genres and vocabulary. Not that you parents out there, you're not going to go Google standard, ELA.6.42. You can, but you don't have to. That just kind of gives you an idea. This is what our teachers have been working on with our students all year, and this is what drives the instruction.
Right, exactly. So back to the one that's the largest percentage, where it says 35 to 50%. Those questions, and I said kind of thinking, those are what we call off the text type of questions. And the reason why they're off the text is because you will not find the answer in the text necessarily. Like the fish weighed 14 pounds. You will not find that in the text on these type of questions, okay? And it comes to thinking while you're reading.
It's critical.
And so up to, critical analysis, it's up to 50% of the test is on that. So that's why it's so important that we understand this blueprint, because the testing system is going to take questions from this blueprint.
Exactly.
Right. For reading and for math,
Yes.
because the next slide is going to be math.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so
same type of thing. It just tells you kind of the breakdown of what types of questions and the domain in which they're going to be asked. Algebra and geometry, of course, are going to be a little bit different, but it's the same. It's generally the same thing as ELA.
Right. Yeah.
We did the same thing for science. 5th grade and 8th grade are tested for science, and biology and civics are both EOCs, end of course exams.
Right. And all those tests, I know we're going to show it later, but all 4 of those tests right there, 5th grade science, 8th grade science, biology, and civics, are 160 minutes long.
Yes, and we are going to talk about how long each test is, how long students get for each test. And all of these this year, actually, all of these are computer based.
Right.
They last year
paper based.
The science was paper based, and this year everything is computer based. And I think, don't quote me on this, but I think we find out the scores relatively
a lot quicker.
Right. Some things we find out right away, and others may take a little bit, like the EOCs. Right. But we get that. That's what I love about the computer test.
Absolutely. So one thing I wanted to point out, when you look at like the 5th and 8th grade science, where it says nature of science and earth and space science, physical science and life science. Well, nature of science is just understanding the scientific method, understanding hypothesis and all that kind of stuff. So you can tell that's a low percentage of what's on the test, but you can see the other 3 types of sciences are what's going to be the bulk of the test.
Exactly.
If you can see, they're all almost about 30%.
Yeah.
So,
and we'll go over at the end some things that you as parents can do to help your student get ready. But I can tell you that our teachers, first of all, we have some of the best teachers, and they have been getting our students ready for these tests. And they're getting them ready in class, but there's also the students have access to the instructional software, which supports all of these standards and all of these test prep things. So students can work on this at home. If you just, want them to get a little extra practice in, they have Penda for science. There's Imagine Math for math, obviously. There's Achieve 3000. So all of those things, we do have iExcel. I know our teachers love iExcel, and they give them practice assignments on there as well.
Right.
So there's lots that they can be doing at home just to, keep their brains fresh.
Right.
Let's see.
Okay.
All right.
This is where I was trying to go before, when I got a little ahead of myself. It's called Computer Adaptive Questioning, which we call CAT. Now, this is the interesting thing, though, is that did you know that on the end of the second PM, so the one they did in January, if on a scale score they were to score 212, on PM3, when they start PM3, they start at 212. Game changer, right? Where it used to be, and pretty much in September starts at 0, and then
teachers.
Here we go. We have an announcement,
Sorry.
right?
Yeah. So sorry.
Teachers,
yep.
I want you to know that we need you to check your email before you leave today. There are 2 important emails in there for you. One from Multicultural Affairs,
sometimes, so
and the
sorry.
other is an IT email. Please check your email before you leave. Thank you.
We have 2 important emails to read.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to the computer adaptive. So you start off PM3. If you scored at 212 in January, you end at 212, then you start at 212.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right. And then the test goes off of pulling those questions from the blueprint that we were telling you about. Okay. And then after it gets the blueprint, but this is the thing though about the blueprint. None of the questions are going to be, if it's a 4th grade reading test, it's not going to be any questions from 5th grade. It's not going to be any questions from 3rd grade, not even questions from 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. So this isn't one of those tests where it's like, well, my child's reading on an 8th grade level.
Right.
Okay. So this is showing whether they truly have mastery of standards in a repetition way.
Right. For their grade level.
Right.
Right.
So it's adaptive. And, you know, if you and I were to sit right next to each other and we start the test, you and I will take a completely different test.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Based on our scores and all of that
Right.
good stuff.
Based where we left off of and all that. So literally we could sitting right next to each other. And you know what the good thing about that is? As a teacher, there's no cheating.
There is no cheating.
Right. You can't
do it.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah. So
right.
Which is good.
Yeah, which is really good.
Yeah.
So that's computer adaptive questioning. CAT also is
Yes.
known of it. So
and there's a video embedded. If you were here
on
last
this
night
slide right
on this
here.
particular slide, we will upload this PowerPoint so you can still see the video, and it just is a little bit more in-depth explanation of CAT, but we just want to kind of give you the very condensed version.
Correct.
And then just kind of give you a little bit of what that means.
Okay. So the best way to describe this is, I'm going to ask you this. Have you ever played laser tag?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever played laser tag against a really good team?
Yes.
Okay. How did you do?
Terrible.
Terrible. So my guess is the reason why you did terrible is because the other team had a plan.
Yes.
And your team did not have a plan.
And I don't know how to play really well.
Right. So I mean,
yes,
but it's no different like if you were to play soccer.
Right.
If the other team that you're playing is a soccer team, they have a really good plan on what they're going to do.
Yeah.
If your team goes out there and you don't have a good plan,
yes,
then the likelihood of doing really well is not going to happen. And that's what this screen represents. This student had a plan.
Right.
Okay, so you can see they start off, they get that first question right, then they go to the next one, they get the second question right, then they get to the third question, they get that one wrong. And so when you have a plan, it doesn't mean that it's perfection.
Right.
But you can see from the beginning to the end of the test, even though that one's red, you can see the last green is much, much higher than the first green.
Right.
So that means that that student had a plan in coming forward and taking the test serious and answering question 1 seriously, question 2 seriously, question 3 seriously, still missed it, but was taking it on a serious manner.
Correct.
So,
which is good, which
right.
is different than the next slide what we're going to showing and the guessing.
Right. And they had no plan.
Right.
That's like you playing laser tag.
Right. With no plan.
With no plan. So you can see that student had no plan. They were not taking the test serious at all. And from my perspective, now I'm a little older and vision can be a little difficult, but it doesn't seem like the student had improvement at all.
Right. Right.
So,
and if the student, we call it Christmas tree,
right.
When they just guess and they're like, oh, click, 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 click. What's going to happen is chances are they're going to get the question wrong. And when they get the question wrong, when they get so many questions wrong consecutively, it takes them down a level.
Right.
And when it does that, it's very difficult, to come back up.
Right.
And obviously, we want all of our students to get 3s, minimum.
Right.
But when you're just Christmas treeing it or just guessing and you just don't care, then it's very difficult to get back. And it's not really testing your abilities. It's going to score you at a lower level, which ultimately can impact the trajectory that you of courses that you take in middle school, which carries over into high school. So the score is important, and it's important that students take it seriously. They take their time. They can't skip a question anymore,
right?
Which in a way is a good thing, but in a way they can't move on to the next question.
Right. But if the student actually says, "Okay, I'm just going to answer. I'm just filling this answer so I can move on."
Yeah.
Well, your path has already been set.
Exactly.
You cannot go back and reestablish the path. Because you have to answer each question, you take it one at a time in a serious manner. Now, you by all means, once your path is set, you can go back and check it.
Right.
But just to go through and check through and just to get to the end and then to go back and try again, your path is set. So, and you don't want to do that.
It just is it emphasizes the importance of the students taking their time and taking the test seriously.
Right.
So, third grade. Third grade is a big year.
It's been like this for years.
Yes, it's a big year. So in order for students to pass third grade, they have to score a level 2 or higher on the ELA assessment, on the FAST assessment. Now, for those students that do not get a 2, we have a couple of other things in place that
opportunities.
Yes,
right?
that the district calls good cause exemption. So
Right.
we're going to talk about briefly what those things are, what those items are that are qualify for good cause exemption. One is for the limited English proficiency students who've been here for less than 2 years.
2 calendar years, right?
2 calendar years.
Not at the school for 2 years.
Exactly, 2 calendar years. We have
Right.
a date that we see in the system. It's called the due date, date
Right.
that entered the United States. And if it falls within those 2 years, that is good cause exemption.
Right.
Students, there are 3 other assessments that we give after PM3.
Right. NWA being one.
Yes.
But that's something that we do every year. So
yes, their students are used to this.
Right.
Yes. And we'll take, for 3rd grade, they will take NWEA the next day.
Right.
And the reason being is because there is a 30-day window.
Correct.
So they can take, if they don't do well on FAST 3, PM3, then on the next day they're going to take NWEA. And if they score in the 50th percentile or higher, that will give them good cause exemption.
Right. And so, I mean, because the reading test for 3rd grade is going to be May 1st, NWA is going to be May 2nd.
Correct.
So if the child is not here on May 1st, they're not going to do the NWA before. They actually have to take the NWA after or
it is
any
a requirement.
other. Right.
Yes.
Has to be after that.
And then the reason being, the NWEA we can actually use twice. We can assess them twice, but there has to be 30 days in between.
Correct. Right.
So if they don't do well on NWEA or any of our other opportunities, then they'll be able to come back this summer.
Correct.
And take NWEA again. They would qualify for our summer school program.
And then I believe Achieve is going to be May 13th.
Yes, May 13th. That is locked in.
And
May
then
13th.
Star Reading is going to be as needed for students.
For those students.
Right.
And then if they do not succeed on those 3 opportunities, we also have been working on what we call portfolios, which is a series of passages for each standard. And teachers have been doing portfolios since we came back from winter break.
So roughly, let me explain that, because there's 13 standards and each one has to have at least 2 passages, actually have to have at least 8 questions. And so if you do 8 times 13, that's a lot of questions.
Yes, a lot of questions, and they have to get
that's what 96. That's 96 questions that they would have to answer versus the 36 to 40 that they do on the FAST.
Yeah.
So taking the FAST seriously from the very first day is the most important.
Exactly.
You know, there was actually a mom that was there last night. She turned to her daughter and was like, "You better pass it the first time." So,
so it's serious business, but our 3rd graders have a lot of opportunities.
Correct.
A lot of opportunities to get promoted. So do not panic if they do not score a 2 on the FAST. They do have other opportunities.
Right.
And then we have our end of course exams.
Right.
They have to score a 3.
They do, especially on the algebra and geometry.
Yes.
If they do not score a 3 on both of those, they will have to retake the test at a later date. Someone asked last night, well, when's that later date? This past year, our first time that we offered it again was October.
Yeah.
So if they're in 8th grade and they have algebra, they're going to have to take it next year in high school.
Right.
And if they do not pass it, then they have to continue to pass it.
Yeah.
Or just retake the class.
Exactly. And
so,
yeah, we really hate for them to do, even if they're in algebra and they're going to get promoted to geometry. If they're in 7th grade algebra, they're going to get promoted to geometry, and they can take the algebra exam here in the fall.
Right.
However, you're still going to have to kind of go off that memory of what did I learn in algebra.
Right.
So we really want to push for that 3. And it does count for 30% of the student's grade.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
all the EOCs count for 30% of the grade, not just algebra and geometry, but all the EOCs.
Yes.
The civics, algebra, geometry, and biology.
And civics is a big one.
Right.
A really huge one. And I emphasize it to the 7th graders all the time. The higher their class grade is, the more of a cushion that they have for that civics EOC. So it's really important to get those assignments completed, to make sure that we're here and we're taking the test or the quizzes or whatever that our teachers are assigning, so that we don't have a low grade, because at the end of the day, the higher that civics grade is in the class, the little bit more of a cushion you have.
Correct.
If you don't do so well on the EOC.
So if you don't have a good grade in civics and you do not do good on the EOC, you stand a really good chance of having to repeat it in 8th grade.
Exactly.
And this is the thing. If you do not have it passed by 8th grade, then you do not get to go to 9th grade.
Correct.
Right.
If you do not pass it in 7th grade and you have to retake it in 8th grade, then you do lose your elective in 8th grade.
Right.
You will have to take the civics. You'll have to take 2 social studies in 8th grade.
Right.
And nobody wants that.
No, they don't. But if they don't pass in 8th grade,
then you're going to be
Back
here in
in
summer
8th
school. And
right.
you have to have
Yeah.
that in order to be promoted to 9th grade.
Right.
So
That's important.
yes. This just is a little schedule so that you know when we are administering the test.
Right. I would actually take a screenshot of this. That way
Yes.
you have it, and that way you don't have to come back to this. Take a screenshot as parents. That way you can see when we're testing.
Exactly. Tells you how long they have for each session.
Yeah. The sessions are either 120, 100 minutes, or 160.
Perfect.
So
And then what if they don't finish during that time frame?
they have extra time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they have extra time. By all means, they have up to, depending on the tests and all that kind of stuff, like how much time, but they do have extra time.
Okay. Perfect.
And it could take several minutes. So
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
And then this just gives you a little briefing as to what each level looks like. I know
Right.
you hear like I got a 3 or I got a 4 or I got a 5 or I scored a 1.
Right.
This just tells you what each level achievement
Yeah.
level means.
Pretty much purple is like, hey, I'm doing superior.
Yeah.
This is great. Blue is this above grade level, green is on grade level, orange is just below grade level, and then red is significantly below
Correct.
grade level. Yeah.
How can you help your students prepare?
I'm going to say, first
Go
and
ahead.
foremost, I think this is extremely important. You need to have your child here on the day that we give the test and on time.
Yes.
And the primary reason why is because studies have shown that if a child is testing in the environment that they're the most comfortable, they're going to perform better.
Correct.
And if they miss school, then I pull them, and myself or another teacher or somebody does the administration. I'm a friendly face, but I'm not necessarily a comfortable, caring face that they've become to know.
Right. Not
Right.
not even in the same classroom.
Right.
It's a different environment altogether.
Correct.
So it just having your child here also emphasizes the importance that it is to you
Right.
as a parent, and that it's important for your child to be here. So it gives them more opportunities for success. They're
Right.
here on time. They're here every day. That just sets them up for success.
Correct.
It's also not really a test you can study for.
Correct. It's not a test you can study for. I mean, you can have them work on Achieve 3000, IXL, Imagine Math, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, Imagine Math and all that. But this isn't something you can study for. But make sure they get rest.
Mhm.
Make sure they eat breakfast. And Ms. Jones brought it up. Please, on the morning of the test, if their shoestrings are not the way that you want them to be, let's let it go.
Yeah.
Just let it be that morning, just be as smooth as possible.
Yes.
And
We don't want to stress them out.
Correct.
Just
Right.
encourage them. Like, that's the best thing you can do is just encourage them to do their best. Like,
Right.
we don't want to put any pressure on them. We don't want them to feel any kind of pressure. We just want them to do their best. And at
Correct.
the end of the day, that's all that matters is that they do their best.
Right.
So that's all we can ask for. So I think
That's it.
we tried to make it short
Yeah.
and sweet.
I'm just sorry that you weren't in the video most of the time.
It's all right.
They just hear you talking.
People
So,
see enough of me.
Yeah,
So-
well, because you do shark bites quite often.
So, but if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to us. Mr. Ross is our testing coordinator.
Right.
I am the dean of curriculum, so you can email either one of us. We should be able to help you.
Yeah.
But
I'm really to them. I'm just a parking lot guy.
you are the guy in the parking lot.
I'm just a parking lot guy. So
So,
I do more than sit in the parking lot, right?
Yeah.
So
but thank you so much. We are excited for our spring testing to get started. So
absolutely, starting May 1st.
That's right. Have a great day.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.